Hey, good afternoon. It's about 3, almost 4 o'clock here in California. Today is my nephew Ben's birthday, and he is turning 24 today. He's over in Florida, and he was my first nephew, so that was pretty cool. Nice guy, love him to pieces. I thought that I would tie a fly for him today. So he, as far as I know, has never been fly fishing, although I did teach him how to cast a little bit one time when we lived in Tennessee. So the fly doesn't really have a use for him unless he decided to try to fish. But um, anyway, I'd love to show him sometime. So anyway, I thought I'd tie him a fly. So there's a pattern called a Griffith's Gnat. Griffith was the guy's name, I guess, and a gnat is a gnat, like the thing that gets in your face and um, flies around. So on the river, when you're fishing, they'll often hatch and there'll be these little tiny bugs. And Griffith's gnat is a good one for imitating several different kinds of bugs. And it's a pretty plain looking fly. It's usually kind of a brownish gray color, very small and fuzzy. But I thought that I would spruce it up a little bit today and tie one a little bit different with some different colors. So Ben, when he was little, when I would go see him, I'd go up to him and I'd say, "Hey, punk," and he'd say, "I'm not a punk." And I'd say, "You're the punkiest punk." And he said, "I'm not a punk." And so we go back and forth about being a punk, just as a term of endearment. But anyway, so I thought I would tie him a punk gnat. So using some bright colors and whatever. So I'll switch it around and we'll take a look. Okay, let me get my size set up here. Okay, so a typical Griffith's gnat. This is not an actual Griffith's gnat, but it's very similar. Basically, something like along these lines. Very small hook. You just tie some dark thread in, and then you wrap it with a hackle and make it fuzzy. You throw it, and it floats on top, and the fish come up and destroy it. But I thought that I would use some different colors today for Ben's gnat, and I've got a ostrich herl here that I colored blue with a marker. I wanted it to be, because I've only got this taupe kind of color, and so I colored it blue. That'll be the base of the fly. I've got this, kind of hard to see, but this green hackle. I bought these when I first started fly fishing, and I've hardly used them. Let me see if I can cover that. There, it pops a little bit more. So there's that, and then I'm going to be using my fire orange uni thread for the body and head. So I'll go ahead and start it so this doesn't prolong too long. So I just start with, like normal, with a regular thread base. All the way down to the bend of the hook. It's a very, very simple fly. It is meant to hang on top of the water, so you don't need any weight. There are versions of this, when the fly comes out of the water, or when the fly hatches from underneath and starts rising, there's different shapes that it takes, and you can tie different flies to represent the different levels of the water that they're in, or to represent them being in different levels of the water depending on what the fish are eating. So if they're eating off the bottom, then you tie the ones that go on the bottom. If they're eating in the middle of the water column, then you tie them to fit the middle of the water column, and then if they're on the top, then you tie whatever's on the top. So I've got some little flash here. It's kind of hard to see in this light. The light's kind of behind the fly, but I'm just going to tie this in as a little tail. This is not something that they typically have, but again, this is the punk, so I'm going to make it kind of pop a little bit more than normal. Make a couple of turns here, and that'll just attract the fish to the fly even more. Okay, just run down a little bit, and Looks like I don't even need to trim my, I can go ahead and trim it. Trim a little bit of trash here. That is not Santa and Jingle Bells, that's my dog scratching. In case you're wondering, in the background. Okay, so we got a little tail. I'm going to tie in my hackle. Sorry, my hurl, ostrich hurl. Just going to snip off this part where I didn't get it colored. I hope that this is still a good video. This is got a low network connection. I always get that in the afternoons. It bugs me. So I'll just tie this in. And then one more thing to tie in, and I'll go ahead and tie in the hackle. This is pretty much the same length all the way down, so I don't need to really worry about which direction I'm tying it in. Okay, now all I need to do is run it back to the front. Then I'll take my hurl first. I'm going to take this and make sure that I'm not over my hackle. I'm just going to wrap it forward, and it'll make kind of a lower level fuzziness there. Short spines of the feather there, and this will be good because it'll be enough to do 2 flies, or 3 maybe, just with that one. If I was doing a bigger fly, it'd take up a little more. So you see I just did a couple of turns there. I snipped that off. Now, I could tie that just like that with the tail, and that would be a perfectly good fly. It may not float very much, but I could even tie in a little bit of foam right there, and it would be a cool fly as well, and I could fish it and probably catch something on it. But I want to go ahead and do this because I want these barbs to stick up even higher and have 2 levels of the fuzziness. So I like to put this backdrop up. There it is. I like to put this backdrop up so that you can see a little better, and so that you can, it'll focus better, but then it hides all my stuff on my desk. So that's a good thing and a bad thing, because if I need something, I gotta dig behind it. Alright, so I'm just gonna take my hackle plier. I've got my hackle pinched here. Okay, good. Broke off the end of that, so I'll just reconnect it. Be a little more gentle this time. I need to redo this, or at least turn. I'm going to wrap the hackle backwards because of the way I tied it in, the barbs aren't standing up. So I'm going to turn it a little bit. Having troubles. Keep snapping off the end of the feather, the leather. Give me a little trouble. Feathers give me lots of trouble. Well, I'm going to go back because that is not good enough for my nephew. I'm going to take this off. I'm actually just going to snip it right there. That is not good enough. Undo that whole thing. For those watching, perfect end to that fly. I'm just going to go all the way back. These materials are very weak sometimes. Old feathers can be brittle. So the thing to do in this, if you ever break one off or need to repair something, you just go back and cut it like that. You've already got your thread on there, so you just pretend like you're tying something, like you're starting it again, and you can go over the top of that stuff, and it doesn't really matter unless you're trying to keep your body super thin. It doesn't really matter if you've got extra string on there. So you tie in my hackle or my herl again. This is ostrich herl that I colored. Wrap forward, wrap backwards, and let's see, find a new. I actually picked that one out because of the length of the feather. I didn't want it to stick out too much, but this is a punk, so I might as well punk it up. So this one's got a little bit longer tines. It'll be kind of big on there. It's gonna be crazy big, but it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna go in, strip these back. Sorry, you can't see that. Strip off all the barbs on the one side so that when I wrap it around, it'll stand up like it's supposed to. Okay. Now this one, I'll go backwards on it and make them stand up. These are all still pretty good on the length, so but I think I'll tie it in with the small end first. I'm going to snip this stump off a little bit. I'm hoping this is all coming across well because my internet connection is a little low, so I hope the video quality is okay. I'll have to repost it on my Facebook after it records to my phone. Sorry, on my YouTube. If anybody is watching and wants to see some more of my videos, if you've never seen me do this before, you can go to my YouTube channel where I repost these videos to stay. It's Quiet Man 28. It's my YouTube channel. I've got about probably 30 of these videos up. I like to try to do tribute flies when I can, when I think about it. They're just kind of fun to be creative and not just, boring old useful flies. Okay. Wrap my ostrich again. Oh, man, I'm not having an easy time with my feathers today. Wrap my ostrich. And these are not quite touching turns. A little bit of space between them so the other feather has a place to go. Becca Marty. See you on Facebook all the time. We taught together several years ago in San Antonio at brand new school. And now all of our students are graduated college from those years. Have kids, married, all kinds of stuff. It's pretty crazy how time flies. Okay. Now, let's see if I can do any better with this one. Turn it that way. I'm going to do this by hand so it doesn't keep snapping it off. I hope. Very, very fuzzy gnat. Okay. Tie a good orange head on there. A little half hitch. I'll go ahead and finish this one off because it's been a long time coming. All right. Finish that off. Brandy Lepore. Brandy, the last time I saw you was the year that my nephew, whose birthday it is that I'm tying this fly for, that was the year that he was born. And we were at Florida Community College in Jacksonville. Okay, I think that'll do it. It's pretty rough looking, but that would catch fish, oddly enough. If you threw that out there, you'd definitely get some perch, probably, I don't know, maybe a trout, depending on the water you're in. But it's got some flash to it a little bit on the tail. It's got the blue base, it's got the green hackle sticking up, it's got the orange head and a little bit of orange on the butt there. And I think it would work. The way that I tied it was a little bit rough, and it may have a little trouble being tied on because of the way that I tied the head. But that is a crazy looking fly. It's definitely punk looking. It's almost got, yeah, it's almost got a mohawk. Anyway, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I've got to run. Happy birthday, Ben. I love you. Miss you. Have a great day.